Are we ready for work? Hello again, Marty here with Warehouse and Operations as a Career. We'll have Joe joining us a bit later in the program today, and we'd like to talk about being ready or prepared for work each day. You know, we work in the warehousing, transportation, and operations fields. It can be hot during the summer, really sticky and humid, and cold during the winter, and maybe we work in the cooler vaults or the freezer environments. We may even have a position where we could be in all three environments throughout the course of our shifts. We may have day positions or deep night shifts, really anything in between in operations. Certainly not unique to our industry, but operations shifts may be long too. In the distribution arena, the task of, selection and loading isn't really through until that last case is loaded for delivery. I've interviewed candidates before, go over with them or give them the shift start time of like 6 till finish, and I'm always asked if that's 8 hours or 10 hours. Try explaining that till finished, what till finished means. 6 to 8 to 10, or even as much as 14 hours. It's till we're finished. Production facilities could be really exactly the same. Manufacturing can hold true as well. And transportation, transportation is really its own beast, right? If you've worked in warehousing for any length of time, you've heard over and over about the importance of stretching and taking care of our muscles. You know, if you take care of yourself, you're probably all too familiar with the practice. However, the vast majority of us probably never give our muscles a second thought, really. And there's differences in working a day shift and the night shifts. You know, there should be differences in how we approach or prepare for them as well, or I feel that way. Myself, I love the third shift, being one that never really required the full 8 hours of sleep. It fit me kind of well. And the second shift, it was great for me as well. I find these two shifts are great for saving money. You're working during those disposable income hours. Also, or at least in some of the distribution centers, the weekend comes a lot earlier. Many third shifts select and load Sunday through Thursday, so deliveries are rolling on Monday through Friday. I found another great thing is you come in, you know your piece count, you get it done and go home. You don't really have to worry about forgetting something or forgetting to do something. Just come back the next night and you get to start all over again. They're especially great for the single man or woman. I mean, we have a lot of unconventional freedoms, like we, when we want to sleep, we can get off and go straight to bed, or we can stay up for a while, take care of errands, or socialize on the schedule that we really want to. Personally, I used to get off, go to bed for my 6 hours, and get up, sometime early afternoon, while others would stay up in the mornings, get their day done, and wake up, just an hour before the shift starts. Like I said, I love those shifts, and we'll be talking a lot more about the night shifts a bit later. They're really important should we have aspirations of, getting into management in the operations world. Of course, when most people think of a job, I think our first thought has to be that 8 to 5 thing. Operations is really 24/7 and practically 365. Don't get me wrong, there's tons of positions in our fields that are day jobs, and there's equal opportunities really on all shifts. Many times the second and third shift may come with a differential of some kind or outright, pay better. In our distribution worlds, we're going to find that a bit of experience on the night shifts are typically going to be kind of a prerequisite to most positions of upper management. It's going to be really important that we have a thorough knowledge of how each shift works, what it takes, and how to make things happen with our employees. The night shift can be a bit rough on families or young children if we approach it, as any other job. Our sleeping is, of course, upside down most of the time, but other things like our eating can be affected as well. I always just kind of eat by the clock. In other words, I have typical breakfast foods in the morning hours. I always try to have a good lunch, but a light lunch when I'm working nights, and then I'll have dinner foods in the evenings. I know a lot of men and women that eat by the meal or breakfast foods just before going into work, a heavy or full lunch, and then their dinner when they're getting off, in the mornings. I've never been able to do a plate of spaghetti or lasagna in the mornings myself. I'd have dreams of monsters or something. Something I'm always a bit leery of is the energy drinks available to us today. Years ago, caffeine pills were a big thing. I did and do drink a lot of coffee when on nights, but I never really liked that jittery feeling after being up a while. It's important that we sleep enough and sleep some kind of a regular schedule. I find for myself anyway, I can work about any schedule, but I do have to keep to a schedule. As I was saying, I've known people that get off work, go straight to bed, and those that stay up 4 or 5 more hours and turns in. But I've seen those that's tried to occasionally get straight to B or bounce back and forth between the two during the week, and it's just not a successful plan. Without eating properly and sleeping as your body may require, you may not be successful at work, and you'll possibly find you'll be sick quite a bit. Back to where what I started to say about families and children, though. I feel it's that families can be perfectly fine with a mom or dad working a night shift. The key is, and has to be, it's got to be the normal thing. It's got to be the norm at the time. If mom or dad gets up and goes to work as the kids are coming in from school activities or sitting down to dinner, it just has to be what everyone's used to, and it'll be accepted. I know families that work well that way for many, many years. I actually have several friends that have worked that shift 10 to 15 years, and they love working nights. They just feel there's less stress and it pays well in their position. I know it probably sounds completely upside down to anyone that's never worked it, but it can really work out well. Although the day shift is inherently normal, I'm definitely not one that should be using the word normal in any form or fashion, but really, the first shift is the preferred shift of the masses. I believe the same thing holds true for us on days as well. We need the sleep our bodies need. Maybe 5 hours for some of us, or 8 hours if you need it, 10 hours some people need. We just need the rest that we need. The same holds true with the importance of a schedule too. Our eating habits, I believe we have to think ahead a bit. We all have to work the rest of our lives, and good habits are going to be needed to keep us as sharp and productive as we can be. Being prepared for work each shift will eliminate a lot of the human nature things we've discussed, and we all struggle from time to time. If we have a set wake-up time and we plan for our breakfast time, have plenty of time to get cleaned up, dressed, and are ready to leave for work on time each day, even have a little extra time to leave, early if it's rainy or foggy, there's no way we could be tardy, or we'll never have to stress about being late reporting to work. I know several companies that really encourage or strongly encourage that their selectors, their loaders, or forklift drivers, etc., are, they're at work at least 15 minutes early each day. And kind of think about it. We'll always be prepared, properly dressed with our PPEs and at our workstations ready to go if we've planned properly on our side. Being that person will get us noticed by our management teams, and that's what we're after. We want them to recognize that we're dependable, doing a great job for them, and that we participate with everything that the team does. Well, enough of my thoughts. I kind of ran off the rails a bit and got sidetracked with what we wanted to talk about. We have Joe on the phone today, and what we'd like to talk about is being prepared for our shift. Joe, why did you let me get lost and go down the wrong opinion path there, man?
Well, it's really not the wrong opinion path. Myself, Marty, I'm an old soldier. Preparedness has a whole lot to do with how you feel about your job and what direction your day is going to take.
That's true. And I know when I was, a lot younger and just kind of starting out, in our minds, there's not a lot of preparing. The alarm clock goes off, we get up, we get dressed, we get in the car, and we go to work. I think it's so important, though, as we discussed, not just taking care of ourselves, but remember, we could have traffic, we could have all kinds of problems. We got to do this the rest of our life.
That's right. One thing that I really never was really big on was getting up at dark 30 in the morning and having to stumble around in the dark and, kick the dog, wake up the kids, whatever the case may be, rattle around in the kitchen because everything was an afterthought because we're not preparing well. If you have a 12-hour shift coming and you have one of those positions where more than likely you're going to be on your feet all day, well, if you plan to be comfortable during that shift, you actually will. Now, if you're going to work a full day, then you should probably be getting a full day's rest as well. It doesn't really work too good when, you're flying off 1 or 2 hours of sleep, and heaven forbid you're like an equipment operator. Uh, Marty, one of the things with us as adults is we like to uh, drink alcoholic beverages. We like to socialize with our friends. We like to stay up and shoot the breeze with the coworkers. It takes a lot of time to do that. It's actually taking time away from us preparing for our day. So now what do? The next day when we get up and we're dead on our feet tired, after we had to search the entire house to find the car keys because we can't remember where we left them. You realize your phone isn't charged. Just a ton of stuff that begins to happen, and it makes what had the potential of being a bad day a really bad day.
You're absolutely right. We've got to have a life outside of work, but we've got to remember too that we've got to take care of our jobs, and we've got to take care of our bodies while we take care of our jobs. Last week I was traveling. I was out of the state, and so my sleeping and my eating both had to be adjusted a little bit. That's just something I've learned to do to where I'm not affected on the job. I believe right now, me and you were talking, and you brought up how you're doing some training over at a facility. So you're doing some very early morning hours right now. Did you change your regular daily routine in order to do that for a week or two?
Of course, to survive and be comfortable, we had to make some changes. One of the changes that I made was my sleeping habits. You had to go to bed a little bit earlier because you're waking up that much earlier. I'm like you, Marty. I only need a few hours of sleep. I would say between 4.5 and 5, and I'll be ready to rock for a 16-hour day. Now, that's not most people, though. Most people really need a lot of sleep and are cheating themselves and creating sort of a sleep deficit without that. I know you've supervised quite a bit of people in your time, Marty. Let me ask you something. What do you think about energy drinks?
I'm real concerned about energy drinks. Back in my day, it was caffeine pills. We did a lot of caffeine pills, working nights. And, you get that jittery. I can honestly tell you productivity slows down when you start coming down off of all that sugar and you start coming down off of that caffeine. I used to be I was a Red Bull man myself. And I probably drank 2 of the big ones in the morning, 1 throughout the day. And some of those, usually 1 or 2 of those little shot containers, of the B12. As I got older, and going to the doctor and things like that, I found out, all that sugar was not really doing much for me. Feels like it at the time, but by the end of the shift, I could definitely recognize from that sugar crash that you're getting. What do you think of them?
I think they give a false sense of security to some people. Another product that I've seen for sale that I don't like is, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's a little drink that you take like before you start drinking, and it promises not to give you a hangover. Well, that's like over-the-counter medications that may not work for you, so you're kind of gambling just taking that. None of that is going to get rid of how tired you feel, of the fatigue that you're going to suffer from actually doing your job. One thing I always like to stress to the younger crowd is that's why it's called work and not fun. Because trust me, if it was fun, everyone would be doing it.
That's a very good point, and still today, I love Red Bull for what it is. It's a great little pick-me-up during the day. But to go along with what you said, I think, us using them at night just to stay awake, I think that's probably not a good thing. I don't think that's what they was designed for. I think it was designed just to give you that little bit of boost like a cup of coffee. We're probably misusing them if we're drinking, I know guys that drink 5, 6 during a shift, and that probably ain't what we're after.
Some basic biology, Marty, is, part of the headache that you have when you wake up from a hangover the following day is because your body is dehydrated. You actually get that headache because, as you know, humans are mostly water. And where do we carry a lot of that water? That never kind of goes away. A lot of it is in your head, in your brain, and your spinal fluid and everything else. So when your body is feeling dehydrated, it starts absorbing water from wherever possible. One of those places being your head. That's why people get, the morning after headache. A lot of people think that they should start taking aspirin, over-the-counter type stuff. Let me drink this monster. And really, that just adds to the problem of dehydration and fatigue because you're not giving your body what it needs, which is water. You're actually taking away by adding more toxins at that point, more debilitating chemicals, to help you get through it. And if you do, it's the same effect as taking sort of illegal drugs. Is that feeling, that euphoria is overpowering the true scream of, water and oxygen that your body's craving.
That's a really good point. And just relating it to safety, we're hurting our productivity if our body's not ready to go to work. I know from my days in the warehouse, dehydration, you really have to watch for it. And, anytime you start feeling sluggish or anytime you don't have enough rest, there's a safety factor involved there too. You're not going to be quite as quick plugging your pallet jack or plugging your forklift. You're not going to be quite as alert coming out of those aisles and going onto the dock. I think it's an important thing that we watch our sleep and that we watch our eating. I think eating's really important to keep us alert as well.
That's right, Marty. You're bringing up some really good stuff here. If you eat healthy, well, you'll have a little bit more pep in your step. If you're always eating fast food and takeout and greasy things, well, you are what you eat. These are all things to take into account when we go to work, because what if I go to work and I move rail cars around with some type of heavy equipment? What if I'm on a construction site and I'm a backhoe operator? Or, what if I'm just a light forklift driver, but I work in a heavy industrial setting where there's a lot of people out on the floor and I'm bringing them materials? A lot of production places are like that. And these energy drinks that are, kind of helping you out for the second, when you start crashing and coming down off those, on top of the other unpreparedness factors that we've mentioned, well, that's a bad deal.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I drink energy drinks constantly. I try to use them properly, though, and not use them as a crutch just to stay awake on the night shift. Speaking of night shift, one thing that we kind of talk about pretty often is, and of course, our goal is to find us a great career and make more money. Management is a great avenue for that. And speaking of the night shift, just about in all forms of warehouse or production or distribution, even really a lot of your transportation jobs, we really need to do a short stint. I say short, a couple of years on the night shift, to where we can learn every position, everything that our facility does. And I think we really probably should talk some about working the night shift to prepare us for jobs down the road.
That's right, Marty. I really like that. I was brought up on night shifts, actually on a 12-hour shift. And I tell you what, being prepared had a lot to do with it. If there's a job that, a youngster takes an interest in, thinks it'd be great to have, they obtain that job and it's not working out for them, one of the things that I always like to ask them is, did you give it a fair shot? What do I mean by that? Meaning, did you prepare well for it? Did you really put yourself into what you were doing because it's something you wanted to do? And usually that has a lot to do with it too. My number 2 factor would have to be shoes. If you know you're going to be on your feet an excessive amount of time, then it would probably behoove you to not buy the $19.99 special, at the shoe store or at the super center. You'd probably want to invest a little bit more money in yourself, in your feet, and that directly impacts your back.
That's a very good point. And well, here's a question for you. I know myself, I always keep a hoodie in the vehicle. I keep a pair of steel-toed tennis shoes. I keep a pair of steel-toed boots. Actually, I got a couple of different long sleeve shirts in there because I never know what facility I'm going to be walking or where I'm going to. I bet you've got a hoodie or some kind of warm clothing in your vehicle as well at all times.
Oh, yeah. You know me. I'm all about preparedness. I actually have a duffel bag that I think would serve me well through the apocalypse as well as work.
Well, that's a really good point. I know, well, most all order selectors, freezer order selectors that I know, they keep extra clothes in their duffel bag all the time, for especially when it's humid, because it's going to be a little cooler in those things. And I think that's called being prepared.
That's right. We want to be that key player, that employee that's learning, that gets called on to resolve problems. And, sometimes being prepared like that makes you more flexible in the workplace. So you're a selector that always selects in the dry. Well, now they're short in the freezer. You could certainly step up. The more you know, the more you grow. So now you know how to work two ends of your business. That's definitely not going to hold you back any.
Well, Joe, I think we covered some pretty important, points. And like I was saying, we got to work the rest of our lives. We need to, for our own safety, we need to remember to do our stretches, work with our muscles, and remember it's so important to take care of our bodies. And I think the way to do that is preparedness, like you're talking about. Plan on sleeping, plan on eating right, plan on getting up and going to work, whatever shift that we're working, and really just taking care of ourselves, being there on time, allowing us to be there on time. And we're all set for that long-lasting career. You agree?
Yes, sir. We definitely want to be that prepared employee that gets noticed.
Well, Joe, thanks for helping me out tonight, going over these points. And you brought up some really good things for us to think about. You're going to come back and visit with us again, right?
Oh, any chance I get.
Fantastic. I want to thank each of you, our listeners. I hope we gave you some thoughts to think about today. There's so much opportunity in our field. I mean, operation affords us those jobs if we're just looking towards a paycheck at the end of the week. But we can turn each of those jobs into careers and advancement, and management opportunities are right there in front of us if we're interested. All we have to do is apply ourselves, plan our goals out, and take on the responsibilities required for those positions. Again, I'd ask if you enjoy our programs and find any value or just having fun with it like we are, that you'd rate us and leave us a comment on iTunes and join in on our discussions through Twitter and Facebook. Email us at host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com with a topic that you're interested in, and I'll find us a subject matter expert, someone doing the task for us to talk with. Until next week, be prepared for your jobs and work safe at everything you do. Our coworkers and family will thank us for it.